Hello everybody and welcome to the demo for Red Echoes Berlin, a choose-your-own-adventure turn-based strategy game very similar to Suzerain. In fact, I believe the developer has even worked on Suzerain itself. Set in 1918 Berlin, kind of at the time of the revolution. This should be one which will be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, this is just the demo, but I'm looking forward to the full game as well when that releases. Let's get into it. Chapter 1 Changes. The horsemen of the apocalypse, famine and massacre gallop across the world. Karl Liebknecht. I'm going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation, I apologise. I have a little bit of German, but probably not enough for some of these things. Welcome to the game. Every turn, character memories will be spread across the map. Look for the orange outline locations with an exclamation mark above them. To start the story, click on the orange outline church. So we've got a few different districts here by the looks of things. Berlin Ost, Berlin Nord, Berlin Süd, Berlin West. Interesting. And looks to be some different buildings as well. For now though, let's click on the church. Quiet at the front. 5 weeks have passed since I last heard from Willie. I am worried sick. It's very unusual for him not to write to me regularly. At least a letter from his brother Max came through today. He told me things are still quiet on his ship out in Kiel, with the navy safely moored in the harbour as it's been for the entire war. Like every Sunday, I read the morning paper. I never used to follow the news much. After all, one can't change its outcome. Now, ever since both my sons were drafted, I've been scouring the papers for any news from the front, looking for indications of their safety. But the paper's sickening glorification of violence mostly makes him miserable. At least when I started this ritual, I could drink a coffee with it, instead of the vile acorn powder that we have now. New English large-scale attack in Palestine. Offensive in Cambrai Saint-Quentin. Air attack on German hospital. The headlines didn't exactly inspire confidence. At least Willie isn't in any of those places, I thought. There was no news from Flanders. Theodor Aberach, Winifred Schneider, Heinrich Müller. As the priest read out the names of the members of our parish who fell at the front recently, a list that is growing longer week after week, I stared straight ahead, afraid to think about how I would feel should one day my son's name be called. Next to me, a woman started quietly sobbing. I hope the war is over soon. Maybe this year we can celebrate Christmas as a family again. I try to console the woman next to me. You have unlocked your first character. Here you can see their information as well as their pressure and ability. More on those later. Characters add a modifier to the district when they are present. Only one character can be present per district. Hover over the modifiers icon to see its effect. The exclamation mark icon indicates that it is a new modifier. Modifiers are always applied at the end of each turn if their conditions are met. Upon ending a turn, all district modifiers get applied first, then state support will increase in the number of districts determined by the reactionary fervour value. For now, this is only in one district. Hover over the end turn button to see the source reactionary fervour, as well as to see how many turns there are remaining until the current chapter ends. Because Helen Schmidt is present, she prevents state support increasing in district when she is present. Okay. Now then, what's next? This morning, Minna came by. God, she has grown up. I haven't seen her since the war started. She used to be around all the time, helping me raise my boys. We spent a morning reminiscing. When the war broke out, she left the city to live with her family in the countryside. Just a few weeks ago, she returned to Berlin. I told her about Willie and Max, how they've been away from home for years now, fighting the fatherland's enemies. When I mentioned that Max joined the navy, she exclaimed, "Oh, I remember he always used to play with little toy boats, make up elaborate stories about sailing the high seas, bring back cocoa from the colonies, and battling pirates on his way there. In a way, it must be a dream come true. That rarely happens anymore these days." I drearily reply, The High Seas Fleet luckily has not left port in years due to the blockade. No longer having access to chocolate or coffee, for that matter, was a small price to pay for knowing that my son was safe. And what about Willie? In Flanders. I haven't received a letter from him in weeks now. You must be so worried. You know what? I work for the postal service at the Kaiserreich Postfulamt. I'm so sorry these days. If you want, I can inquire. The Danton's offensive. Mail delivery from the front is in complete disarray. Pass by tomorrow and I'll see what I can do. As Miller left, I gazed out of the window, observing the Imperial flag attached to the building opposite mine, gently waving in the breeze. I hope to see it one day in Paris, or I guess if bringing so much pain. We probably want to go for revolutionary support, I imagine. The decision just changed the power bands in Berlin. If a district's revolution support is higher than the state support, you control it. Here you can also see which character is present and what progress has been made towards the next district memory. District memories occur when either side's base support level reaches the thresholds indicated by the progress bars. For detailed information on the district, click on it to open its information panel. Interesting. Okay, it's on the turn. And over to the post office. The next morning, as Mina suggested, I went to the Kaiserreich Postfulamt. It was a bright sunny day, with birds happily chirping away, yet I couldn't enjoy it. They won't be around for much longer, I thought, as the first colours of autumn had started to appear. When I arrived, Mina enthusiastically greeted me at the entrance. She had found an undelivered letter from Willie, dated September 21st, about 8 days ago, just over a week ago. My hands trembled as I opened the quite hefty envelope. Dearest Mum, apologies for not writing these last few weeks. The arrival of the Americans has seen us pushed back, and the fighting left me too exhausted to send letters. I don't want you to worry though. Reinforcements are coming from the east and it will surely turn the tide. Currently I am on short-term leave, spending it in a tavern in Ghent. It's only for a few days, and I almost miss the sound of the artillery overhead. But the city is really beautiful, straight out of one of the fancy fairy tales you used to read me. I promise to take you here when the war is over, drive you around in a boat on one of its many magical waterways. And while the beer and food here is better than anything we have access to in the trenches, cigarettes are severely lacking. I heard that there are still some available in the fatherland. Could you perhaps send me some? Big hug, your Willie. I've included some local sweets, which they commonly call little noses here. Only a drunk's nose has this colour. Inside the envelope were 3 conically shaped bright purple sweets. As I bit down on one and saved its raspy flavour, I felt some of the worry of the past few weeks slip off my shoulders. With my reply, I sent him some fine cigars or a pack of cigarettes. We only have 2 supplies, so I'm going to save them for now. He just has the normal cigarettes. Your decision has affected your resources. Supplies can be used to make certain decisions and use character abilities. Morale comes in 3 levels, with progress towards the next level, indicated by the high progress or by the progress bar beneath it. Having high morale multiplies all revolution support values by 1.5 times, while having low morale halves them. Okay, it's good to know. Vogel, a booming voice echoed through the office. God, what does he want now? I whispered, when my eyes at Jutta, the colleague with whom I was just having a lovely morning catch-up talk. Yes, Mr. Stamfer? I turned to the man making his way towards my desk. He was in his mid-40s, a small, thin moustache adorning his face. Friedrich Stamfer, editor-in-chief of the Forwards newspaper. You've been assigned to write up today's frontline report. I expect it on my desk for review in 6 hours. Here is the Army's official communication, he said, as he handed me a thin folder. You've got a boss. It wasn't the first time I was tasked with writing your support. I used to even enjoy it, as a way to write away my anger at the war, to criticise those responsible. After all, that's why I took this job. Yet 2 years ago, the editorial line shifted, SDSPD's leadership got tired of its newspaper criticising the official party line. Mr. Stanford was brought in, and from then on we just had to parrot the official army reports we received. The files contain nothing new. The Imperial Army is losing ground, but supposedly it's merely a tactical retreat, similar to last year's masterful withdrawal to the Hindenburg Line, except that there is no more fallback line, and the retreat has been going on for months now. As I read through the files, I felt something snap within me. I couldn't care less about the report's claims that our forces destroyed a large number of armoured vehicles. I was fed up with repeating the same lies over and over again, selling a narrative of war going well while millions had already lost their lives. Thus, I decided to adopt a sarcastic tone for today's article. Another masterful gambit by the Emperor, 10,000 Germans captured as Belgians advanced 29 kilometres. Needless to say, Stanford wasn't amused. When I presented the draft, he demanded a full rewrite. His words: "Here's some advice, keep your personal opinions to yourself. You won't leave this office until it's done." When the clock struck midnight, a new version was done. Fully aware that it had to go out in print for a few hours, I keep most of the sarcasm intact. Rewrote it as part of a factual report, or begrudgingly adopted the military leadership's framing. Set up state support, but it does give us supplies. I'm going to do that to get the supplies for later. Currently we've got a couple of places under revolutionary control. I was deeply lost in the pages of Grimm's fairy tales, when the harsh sound of the doorbell took me back to reality. Annoyed, I made a mental note of the store I was on, Godfather Death, before I put down the old dusty book that once belonged to my late aunt. As I opened the door, I saw Mona standing there, her face white as snow, eyes faintly red. In her hand she held an envelope. With a trembling voice she asked, "Hi, could I please come in?" I felt my heart sink. After we sat down on the emerald camera sofa, she handed me the letter. "This telegraph came today in the post office. It was supposed to be forwarded to you, but I thought it best to deliver in person. It reads, Dear Miss Schmidt, we are sad to inform you that your son, Willie Schmidt, has died a hero's death in the service of the fatherland. He passed away without suffering." I doubted that last sentence. The world turned black before my eyes. When I woke up, I didn't recognise where I was. The warm, wooden interior of my flat had been replaced by cold, sterile walls. Next to me was Minna, who looked exhausted. "You passed out," she said. "I called a doctor, and an ambulance took you to the hospital just in case. The nurse wants to keep you overnight. And I'm really sorry for what happened, Helene. Willie was a good kid, he didn't deserve to go like that." So, morale can go down, or revolution support can go down in Berlin Ost. I'm not sure I want that to go down. I think we can take a little bit of a loss in morale, so I'll just thank Minna for letting me know. Each chapter you are presented with a set of goals. Achieving these goals yields powerful bonuses in the next chapter and affects the outcome of the story. Goals must be completed in order, with the next goal only becoming available after achieving the previous one. Hover your mouse anywhere over the interface to see the exact goal descriptions. So we need to control 3 areas. We need to control 2 of them so far. Lead in Berlin Mit and trigger 3 district memories. State support continues to grow in Berlin Mit, which is not ideal. We might be able to swing Berlin West to our cause, though. I glanced at the faces of those present in the room. Meetings with the entire Genesee team were highly unusual, especially ones called on such short notice as today's. And usually they didn't start late. When Stanford entered, everyone fell silent. He paced back and forth for a brief moment, then proceeded to speak. The new Chancellor is pressing for peace. A letter has been sent to Woodrow Wilson, the President of the United States. The government wants us to report on this, ready to admit that it's losing the war. An audible silence fell over the room. Glancing at me, the editor-in-chief continued. I know a variety of opinions on the war exist within this room, but for now it's vital we help maintain order in the country. While the negotiations occur, we will be reporting factually on the peace process, and the editorial line will continue to support SPD and thus government policy, whatever may be decided. Now I'll get back to work. As I was about to leave the room and head back to my desk, I heard Stanford say, "Vogel, a word please. I want you to go to Anhalter Bahnhof today. A large transport of dismissed soldiers is returning from the Western Front. I'd like you to get some testimonies from the returning soldiers on the rumored peace process." "Is there a catch? It's not like you to send me to field work," I replied. "No catch, but no guarantee any of this will get published. I'm in close contact with the party, so we can continue to set the narrative. Oh, and..." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a stack of banknotes. "Here, something to get people talking. I'll start questions, I know you're good at that." As I walked towards the station, I kept the money, gave the money to a beggar, or decided to use the money to gather information. I think we're fine for supplies. Could do with morale, but I'll see if I can start swinging Berlin Sud into more of a revolutionary area. Your decision has increased Martha's pressure. When a character's pressure bar becomes full, their ability is disabled for 3 turns, or until it reaches 0 again. Pressure can be reduced by certain decisions, or by using Helene's ability. Although, most of the character abilities are not yet unlocked. Max is coming home today. Presumably he has heard about Willie, given that he's been recalled from service due to being the only man left in his household. As I took the tram towards the train station where Max's train should be arriving, I felt empty. I wanted to rejoice to see my son again, and yet I could only think about the horrific circumstances that led to our reunion. I stared out the window and watched the city go by. Lost in thought, I almost missed my stop, but it was hard to overlook the grand Anhalter Bahnhof looming over the city, its curved roof casting a long shadow over the small square in front of it. Military trucks were lined up by the entrance, with soldiers swarming around the doors, some leaving, others returning. I walked through the large entrance, briefly glancing up at the 2 statues representing day and night adorning the facade. As the entry gave way to the train hall, a cloud of steam turned my vision foggy. My senses were attacked by the sounds and smells of the bustling train terminal. Between the constant announcements, whistling locomotives, and the occasional cry of a mother seeing her sons depart, I struggled to locate where Max's train would arrive, but eventually I heard the intercom ring out: military personnel transport, origin Kiel Hamburg, arriving track 3. The train pulled into the station, followed by a billowing cloud of smoke. I patiently waited, trying to spot my son among the hundreds of men of all ages exiting the train, all wearing the same white sailor's uniform. Eventually I saw him. We looked at each other, tears welling up in both of our eyes. I pulled him into a tight hug that felt like an eternity. Exiting the station proved to be more difficult than entering it. A large troop transport originating from Saarbrücken, near the Western Front, had just arrived. I stared at the soldiers leaving it, many with bandages around their heads, perhaps even more with missing limbs. And then, among the crowd, I saw a young woman striking a red beret, striking red beret even, long brown hair falling down around her face. She glanced up from her notebook and confidently walked up to Max and myself. "Excuse me for my directness, but I am a journalist, looking for testimonies from those who lost someone in this horrific war," she said, glancing over at my Max. "I take it this young man hasn't simply been sent on leave." "Leave us alone," I bluntly replied. "I will, but please consider it. Here, call me if you feel ready to talk." She handed me a card and left it. Martha Vogel, journalist, Vorwärts, phone 8643. Max was telling me to run after. I found a phone booth and called the number. Our morale is okay for now, I think. We'll try to turn Berlin Sud more revolutionary. We don't control that place just yet, but it's a bit even across the board. Although that continues to grow, helpfully. The state support. Okay, another character. Emil, give me a hand, will you? I quickly ran over to Bern, today's shift leader, and took hold of the large sack of grain he was trying to lift. On the count of 3, 1, 2. Together we hoisted the heavy bag onto a small cart. As he patted the bag, he said, "Now, if you don't mind, bring this to the boys at the train yard. Break time after." With considerable effort, I pushed the cart down the cobbled road. It was the last task of the first shift, 6 hours of break-back in labour. After making the delivery, I went to the canteen. Here I joined Ben at his table, a bowl of bland but warm vegetable soup, and a large, slightly stale piece of dark bread in front of me. Soon after, Franz, a young scruffy boy who couldn't be older than 18, joined us. "Have you heard? The shipping volume is down again from last week. With the talk of peace, less weapons have to leave through the harbour. Maybe that finally means shorter working hours." "Don't dream too much, Franz." But replied, "Besides, I need the pay, I've got kids to feed." I didn't say a word, instead letting out a short groan as I adjusted my seating position. My back hurt, and Byrne shot me a concerned look. "Not much hauling left today, Emil. I'll let you do the inventory this afternoon." Laughter rose from the table next to us. "Letting the pole off the hook again, are we, Byrne?" Byrne's eyes shot daggers in their direction. "Let them be, it ain't worth it," I said to him as I stood up, ready for my second 6-hour shift. I made it through the full shift. That's an extra bit of supplies, or there was a little bit of extra pressure on Emil. So I have Martha, Helena, and Emil. Back with Helene now. I was nervous when I sat down at the quaint quiet cafe on Bell Allianceplatz. Across from me sat Miss Vogel, the journalist I met 2 days ago, before in Anhalter Bahnhof. "Tea, Miss Schmidt?" she asked, and I nodded. As she poured us both a cup of fragrant mint tea, she continued, "You can call me Martha. I want to start by saying that I'm truly sorry for your loss. I want to apologise if any of my questions are hurtful. I think it's really important stories like yours are heard, as only once the wider public turns against war will the killing stop for good. Naturally, your name will be kept anonymous. Could you tell me about your sons, where they both served, and what they experienced?" I started telling the journalist the entire story of my past few years, how my twins voluntarily signed up 2 years ago when they turned 18. How since then, I've only seen them once or twice, but regularly heard from them through letters, in which they told me of life at the front, or in Max's case, at the harbour. While I was telling my story, Martha was diligently taking notes, letting me talk without interruption. It felt good to be heard. When I got to Willie's death, and the uncertainty of the last few weeks, I felt tears well up in my eyes, but I pushed through. Martha handed me an embroidered cotton handkerchief and looked at me inquisitively. "Who do you think is to blame for your son's death?" I felt quiet. After some consideration, I replied. "So the Kaiser in the German state, Helene Schmidt's ability becomes available. That would move the revision support positively, but also increase pressure on Helene. State support will go up. We'll say the Kaiser and the German state. You have unlocked Helene's ability. Each character can be used once per turn, and some require ability supplies to use. Click the ability button to use Helene's ability and continue the tutorial." So that reduces pressure. Helene's Schmidt's ability can be used to reduce the character's pressure. To do so, start by selecting a character by clicking their portrait on the map. Okay. So we can use supplies to reduce pressure. One supplies, and that's pressure reduced for Martha. Gotcha. Helene Schmidt, the woman I approached and had to Bahnhof for agreed to give me an interview. I still wonder if it was the right move, bluntly approaching her and asking to talk about her dead son. It was invasive, yet yielded results. Now I have to prepare for it. Truth be told, I have no idea how to approach this. While I've had to ask different questions during my time as a journalist, nothing has prepared me to talk to someone in so much pain. I glanced at my watch. It was time to go, as I was due to meet Helena at noon. As I turned the corner, I saw the Königliches Schloss right up in front of me. I'm so very sorry, I really can't say things very well there. The Kaiser might be far away from Berlin, but his palace still stood over the city, serving as the heart of the empire, instilling authority in its subjects. I wondered if I'd ever see it stop beating. As I boarded the tram on my way to the interview, I felt ready or unprepared. We don't need to get one pressure less because she's already depressured, so we'll be ready and we'll get morale increase as best we can. Okay, we'll end the turn. Berlin Sud is going to be the real crux point here, I think. We can only hold 2 sections. We can't seem to move characters though, that's the only thing, which would be nice if I could. Stand for side. Understood, it's a no-go. Too inflammatory. Jeopardizes the stability of the country. Hang up the phone and turn towards me. I'm sorry, Vogel, this is an excellent piece of journalism and exactly what I asked for, but I'm afraid the party won't allow it just yet. Best I can do is adapt it into a short series of quotes, leaving out the harsher bits. Angrily I shook my head. You sent me to collect testimonies and now you want me to censor them? Just because some bureaucrat in the party apparatus tells you to. There was a time when this paper stood for radicalism and challenged the status quo. Without awaiting his reply, I left his office. I thought about what Helena had told me. She trusted me with her story, only to have some spineless editor-in-chief bow down to the party line and refuse to publish it. Stand for himself, served at the front, he should know better. And yet for him, the SPD always comes first. Frustrated, I considered my options. Helene's story had to get out. With hers, the story of the millions who had lost someone in this godforsaken empire. But I was fully aware that there would be some consequences. So her ability becomes available. Pressure goes up, or we can send supplies. So we'll do it. We'll do it anonymously. We've got the supplies for it. You have unlocked Martha Vogel's unique ability. It can be used to move characters between districts. There we go. To set a district? Okay, so you can always set. You can set it to where there's space. Gotcha. What I need to learn though is what the characters actually benefit us. Prevent state support increasing district when she's present. I'd like to maybe do that at Berlin Sud, but I think that's going to become available. What about you? State support is higher than revolution support. Reduce state support by 1 turn. Or 1 on turn end. And what about you? If revolution support is higher than state support, increases morale on turn end. I think we know what we'll do. We will move the meal over to Berlin Nord. And that will start to move things down a little bit. That's my hope. So that goes down. This district is locked. Berlin still continues to increase. Berlin Nord continues to increase as well. We might be better off actually. While state support is higher than revolution support, extraction favour is increased by 1. While state support is higher than revolution support, reduce. I'm going to move him again over to here, to Berlin West, to try and get that removed, because I think that Berlin Nord might be a lost cause. Well, I'm not sure. It may not be. I was walking calmly down Schuttenstrasse in the heart of the newspaper district when suddenly commotion grabbed my attention. How dare you publish this crap? A young man wearing a red armband yelled. A small crowd had gathered in front of the Mosse House, home of the Liberal press. A group of what appeared to be young communists were clearly angry at something. I walked closer, trying to catch a glimpse of what the uproar was about. As I stepped closer, a sharply dressed man approached me, handing a copy of today's Berliner Tageblatt. Here, free edition today, he smiled. The headline read, Socialism will only bring continued tyranny, rally for a pluralistic republic. The article attacked socialist movements within Germany, accusing them of undermining efforts to bring about a democratic system. The SPD was charged with not keeping control of its radical flank, while anything to the left of the party got accused of wanting to unleash a red terror. Naturally, liberalism was presented as the only force that could secure a democratic future. None of you have the guts to actually change anything. All you do is write petty critiques of those on the actual barricades, one of the communists shouted. Suddenly, a group of policemen appeared. Realising they were outnumbered, the youngsters with the red armbands turned around and fled. As I continued on my way and walked past the Mossa house, I spat at the front door, worried that we were losing control of the narrative. And so, do we lose the morale? And the state support continues to go up. I think we're going to have to do that. But Berlin still is getting away from us. I think we have to focus on West, Nord, and Ost. Or Ost. Another day, another 12 hours of work. At least Sunday wasn't too far off now. Today's task involved loading crates, bearing a black DVM or DWM stamp onto a river barge, which will take them further west. Crates full of pistols manufactured at the rifling plant in Berlin. As I did every day, I joined Bern and Franz for lunch, another bowl of tasteless vegetable soup with more stale dark bread. At least it was filling. As soon as I sat down, Franz set a piece of paper over to me. Franz, I told you. Keep your politics out of the workplace before people get hurt, Bern hissed. It's quite alright, Bern, I interjected, glancing down at the piece of paper. It looked like an excerpt out of some newspaper. I didn't recognise the publication, as it wasn't written in a typeface I was familiar with. For the sake of our mothers, this war must end, the headline read. Reading through it, the bulk of it appeared to contain a detailed, emotional interview with the mother of a recently killed soldier. She talked about the pain of uncertainty, about endless lists of casualties being read out in church, and then about receiving the dreaded letter that her son was one of them. Later in the article, a series of testimonies by soldiers talking about constant artillery fire, poison gas attacks, fear and death. When I flipped around the paper, I saw a hastily scribbled note. Let's talk at lunch, it can't go on like this, F. I looked at Franz and simply nodded. Later that day, as we continued unloading the barge, Franz found me. Listen to me, I don't have much time. I have friends who are attempting to stop this senseless war and put those responsible to justice. I remained silent. If you want to help, volunteer to take the last crate on board yourself, as everyone prefers to go home, and simply leave it ashore. I'll take care of the rest. And with that, he scurried off, not giving me the time to reply. This young kid is going to get in trouble, I thought, but at least he had courage. As the shift drew to an end, I could follow his instructions. Leave 2 crates ashore instead. We could probably do with some more supplies. Okay, you've unlocked Emil Zima's unique ability. It can be used to increase revolutionary support in exchange for supplies. You can use this ability once per turn. Understood. I think Nord and Suda are going to be a problem, but we'll see if we can get it up there. And then next turn I'll up the supplies in Berlin West. It was late at night, I just left the bar, said my farewell to Jutta. I was on my way home. The streets were quiet, an uneasy sense of calmness covering the city. When I cycled past the Anhalter Bahnhof, I spotted 2 men near the entrance, their figures illuminated by the faint light of the gas street lamps. They appear busy. Strange, I thought, the station is closed at this hour. As I biked closer, I could see they were painting large white letters on the red brick facade. Down with the Kaiser, long live the people's Their work was interrupted by the sound of footsteps rapidly approaching. Turning the corner, 5 police officers appeared. The boys noticed and hastily started running. Unfortunately, one of them tripped, knocking over the bucket of paint in the process. Now the police rapidly began closing the gap, batons at the ready. I squinted my eyes and had a closer look at the fallen individual, now covered in white paint. He couldn't be much older than 17. I had seconds to make a decision, and... How's your pressure doing? I can reduce pressure on myself, so I'm going to distract the police. And reduce pressure of myself. I think that should work. So then now that goes down. So I can now add revolutionary fervor next time. Still not quite there yet, but if I use your ability here, that gives us the 3 we need to control 3 areas. Excellent. Sunday. Usually this would mean a quiet walk through the Rummelsburger Sea, writing a letter to my family still living in somewhere I will not be able to pronounce, and dusting my small room. Yet today it was different. I didn't enter my local corner pub to play cards, but instead to talk politics. 2 days prior, a representative of the USPD, the Independent Social Democratic Party, visited our workplace. Aided by Franz, he called upon all workers to meet him this Sunday. The room was packed. Discontent was high, especially after many read the interview that Franz spread around the workplace. The war seemed pointless, the future uncertain, and people were increasingly worried about not being able to feed their families. As I glanced around the room, I saw that both Bern and Franz were present. Friends, comrades, the representative, a short-body man, started the meeting. I know of your plight. Long working hours, barely enough pay to scrape by. It is no way to live. Cautious but curious, applause echoed through the room, as if we were saying, "Continue, we'll hear you out." Instead of providing you with a helping hand, the SPD, part of the Kaiser's government, continues to spend billions on armaments and war. It speaks of a negotiated peace, yet no progress is being made. Now the applause appeared more confident. We can't sit idly by. The USPD is committed to ending the war and improving the conditions of all working men across this country, but we need your help. In the next few weeks, my party intends to call for a general strike. Only this can break the power of the bosses and politicians. The workers in the room began to murmur. Memories of the last strike back in January were still fresh. Howe was crushed and participating workers were drafted to the front. A heated argument erupted. Bern raised his voice. I have to point out that as much as I want this cruel war to end, over half our current shipping volume is the army. What is the USPD's plan to ensure our jobs remain so that we can feed our families? Franz jumped in. Bern, with all due respect, our brothers are getting slaughtered in the fields of France, and you prioritise your own well-being. Besides, the USPD is calling for reduction in work hours. We won't be defending the old order, but overturning it, just as the workers in Russia did. I admire your idealism, I truly do, but Soviet Russia merely traded one war for another. We need a sustainable way forward, and we aren't ready. The strike funds are empty, and we need time to replenish them, Bern rebuked. The debate continued for what felt like hours. Eventually, the USPD representative spoke again. We hear your concerns, but I urge you to join us. Once my party calls for the strike, we have a world to win. List, I think, is locked down already. I don't know if we need more revolution support. I call for donations to the strike fund. Extra supplies will be useful, I would think. Back with Martha, I stepped on the bridge and froze. There, on the water, stood a large grey heron. I quietly observed it for a minute, admiring its beauty under the soft, early morning light, before I turned back. I can take the long way round, no need to disturb it, I thought. Eventually I made it to the rose garden, my usual Sunday reading spot. I sat down on one of the stone benches and took in the quiet. It was cold, and soon it'd be too frigid to read and write outside, but for now I still got to enjoy my weekly ritual. I opened the letter I brought with me, sent by a close friend and mentor. Dearest Martha, your interview with the War Mother made it into my cell. It is a powerful, hard read. Telling the stories of those affected by the horrors of this world is a powerful thing, provided it is framed with enough political context. Even despite this shift, I have read that Vorwärts is still unable to formulate any meaningful alternative to Germany's morally bankrupt system of government. Not that I was expecting anything better, given that the SPD supported the war from the very beginning. I honestly don't understand why you still work there. It's such a lost cause. Hopefully mine and Carl's plan to start a new revolutionary newspaper, once we get out of jail, comes to fruition. We'll need journalists like you for that. Finally, since you asked, I'm doing well enough. The birds in the prison yard keep me company, and the changing of the leaves to autumn is always a joy worth seeing. My health isn't what it used to be, but I'm hopeful that when the war ends I can return to Berlin. Tell me, how is the mood there? I'm assuming the news report of the Chancellor's pressing for peace must have caused quite a stir. Yours, Rosa Luxemburg. I took out a paper and began to write, and told her that the atmosphere in Berlin was pre-revolutionary, hopeful, or worried about the future? So we get supplies and state support. I don't think we need to worry too much. Although Berlin West is a little bit low, so I prefer to go for pre-revolutionary, just to get a little bit of strength here. I don't know if you need to stay here, so I'm going to move you over to him. I need to see what you do, Martha. If revolutionary support is higher than state support, increases morale on the end, you can move to somewhere else. Let's do that now. So I'm going to move Martha up to here, because that will help with our morale benefits going forward. And now with Helena. I can't help but frown when I left the Alexanderplatz railway station and onto the square itself. From the buildings opposite the Lotterberg, the police headquarters dominating the square, a large hand-painted banner was hung up. It read, "God is with the Kaiser and we are with him." Huh, they really can't get over him, can they? I muttered to myself. In front of the banner, an angry crowd had gathered, but any efforts to take down the banner were thwarted by groups of heavily armed men, dressed in cobbled-together military uniforms. "Freikorps," I murmured. The situation continued to get more tense. Suddenly, a gunshot rang across the square, swiftly followed by a second one. The chaos was complete. I saw a man collapse to the ground as the crowds dispersed. From the Rotterberg, a squad of police officers rushed out. Amidst the chaos, I ran to help the injured man on the floor, ran and hid in the railway station, or froze. Berlin already has pretty much no revolutionary support anyway. But we will go help the man. We'll reduce pressure on Emil, I think. Just by one, though. Still can't hold down Berlin Sud, unfortunately, as much as we would like to. Once again, I found myself in the editor-in-chief's office. Stanford was sitting at his desk with the ever-present portrait of Karl Marx behind him. I couldn't help but think that his principles had long been abandoned by the SPD and its newspaper. But this time I wasn't being reprimanded. Stanford had a worried but caring look on his face, a clear departure from his usual stern demeanour. "I'm truly sorry. It's come to this, Vogel. I tried to convince them otherwise, but the pressure has become too much." I stared down the paper in front of me. As per the decision of the editorial board, I was being made inactive, with immediate effect. They didn't even have the courage to fire me properly. I truly hope that when the war ends, we can reactivate you. You are a great journalist and lost this paper. But as we are approaching a time of great uncertainty, we have a duty to perform and cannot afford to stray from the party strategy. For now, you'll still be receiving your wages for another month. Rosa was right about the paper being a lost cause. I felt done with it and secretly vowed never to return there. But in order to not burn any bridges, I pretended to be modestly upset and acknowledged Stanford's words. As I walked out of the building for perhaps the last time, I was worried about my future, cursed Stanford, or vowed to spend my energy on something useful. We'll see if we can turn Berlin Sud. Leading Berlin Mid is going to be a real tough thing, I think. We probably want to move some people around as best we can anyway. Okay, we're going to move Emil from Berlin West to Berlin Nord, or to Berlin Mitte even. It's going to take a long while for us to be able to move that in the right direction. We have no spare supplies, so we've got to watch out for that. The shadowy silhouette of the royal palace looked quite sinister, much darker than its grandiose architecture appears during the day. Around us it was quiet, with the sound of the gently drizzling rain drowning away any far-removed city noise. Around 100 of us were gathered. I, like many of the others present, carried a candle. On my right stood Max, shielding us from the rain with a black umbrella. Minna was on my left. When the minutes of silence passed, a woman stepped forward and started to speak. We are gathered here tonight to commemorate the millions of young men killed in the war, still ongoing despite a promised peace. This building in front of us, she said as she gestured at the palace, is a symbol of the system and the man that has caused so much death and pain across this land. It was then that I noticed a group of uniformed police officers approaching us. Halt! The short, stocky officer, who was clearly their leader, shouted. Unauthorized gatherings are not allowed and will be treated as sedition when near official government institutions. But I'm feeling lenient today. Go home now and there won't be any consequences. Minna took a step forward. Curse you and your laws. It was the law that forced these mothers' children to go to the front. And now the same law is preventing them from mourning their sons. You should be ashamed of yourself. She had barely finished her sentence when a loud slap echoed across the plaza. Minna yelped and fell to the ground, the police officer laughing manically. You want to play like this? Alright then, men, disperse these traitors. Miraculously, I managed to avoid the blows that followed. Max and I rushed forward to help Minna up and then ran. Around us, several people fell to the ground, bloody from the wooden clubs the police were using, and beat us up. Candles were stamped out onto their black leather boots, and soon after, not a single trace of this small act of remembrance remained. When we were out of sight and out of breath, we stopped running. Gently, I washed and bandaged Minna's bruised face. She would be fine, but I could only hope that... the police would get what's coming to them. We want to try push Berlin Mitt in the right direction. But she is now in hiding. Ability unavailable into pressure reaches 0. Fine. I think Berlin still is a lost cause. I'm going to watch out for you as well. Berlin Ost. Let me just start moving people around as well. So I'll move Martha from here to... I can only move her to here. Is that what I want? It's the only place I can move her to, so I guess we'll do that. We need more supplies. I was hard at work. I loaded crates off a barge that just arrived from out east when Franz came up to me. Have you heard that Liebknecht got released from jail and is heading to Berlin? He's arriving at Anhalt-Bahnhof. Come with, this work is pointless anyway. I glanced over at Bern, who was only a few metres away from us on the quay. He shot me a concerned look. We can't just leave our shift like this, we will get fired, I whispered back. At that moment, Bern dropped what he was doing and walked over to us. What is going on here? He asked. Franz glanced at me before replying. Look, Liebknecht is arriving at Anhalt-Bahnhof within the next few hours. I intend to head over there and was asking if Emil wanted to join me. I won't miss a historical moment like this just as a job. I wasn't expecting him to be this up front. Go, I will cover for you, but just this one time. I looked at Bern in disbelief. We thanked him and were on our way. When we arrived at the Bahnhof about an hour later, we didn't have to wait long. Liebknecht arrived and was carried through the crowd to the car. Franz and I joined the masses in the spontaneous demonstration that proceeded. Following his car, we made our way down the Reichstag. Spurred on by a chance of revolution and down with the Kaiser, we marched. But it didn't take long for the demonstration to come to a halt. Rows of mounted police surrounded us from all sides, attempting to prevent us from reaching the Parliament. The mood shifted, became almost combat-like, and then the state's cavalry charged. So I attempted to fight back. Reaction further increases. Morale decreases. The support goes up, as does the pressure. He's already at 1, we can't really afford to do more. So we're going to lose Berlin West for now. Which is unfortunate, but we might be able to fix that. I was at home contemplating how to fill my first new days of unemployment when through the window I heard a newspaper boy call out, Kaiser Gaunt's general amnesty, Liebknecht released. Travelling by train to Berlin right now. Immediately my journalist persona kicked in again. I grabbed my coat, beret and notebook and left the house, rushing to Anhalter Bahnhof. I realised this was a historic moment and I wasn't about to miss it. When I arrived, a large mass of people were already gathered. The news had spread like wildfire across the city. There was no getting to the station building. I was just packed full of people waiting to catch a glimpse of the newly free communist. Rose-grey uniformed soldiers kept the eager crowds at bay. I found a wide bollard to stand on, giving me a better overview of the situation. Soon after, cheers erupted. First from within the station, then from outside. He had arrived. Carried on the shoulders of the grey uniformed soldiers, he made his way out of the government and through the crowd. Cries of "Down with the government, stop the war" echoed through those gathered. Some spontaneously started winning the workers' Marseille, and I couldn't help but hum along to the melody. As he was brought to a car on the opposite side of the plaza, he passed right in front of me. Briefly we looked at each other. In his face I saw steadfastness. In that moment I felt hope. Before entering the car, he turned to the crowd, raising a clenched fist. He declared, "Fear not, for I have remained the same, but it is time for a new struggle. You, the workers, hold in your hands the ability to seize power." And with that, his car drove off towards the Reichstag, with the masses following closely behind him. We'll follow the crowds, we'll keep trying to get revolutionary support growing here. And with Helene, I was enjoying a tea with Minna in a tea house on Unter den Linden, close to the fabled Brandenburger Tor, where we heard the commotion outside. Of course, Minna and I heard about Karl Liebknecht returning to Berlin today, but after last week's candlelit vigil, we decided we'd rather stay far away from another potentially explosive situation. I thought they were headed for the Reichstag, Minna exclaimed as they rushed outside to see what was going on. They charged the demonstration. Liebknecht is at the Soviet embassy, someone yelled. Unable to contain our curiosity, we walked a few blocks over. Outside the embassy, the situation was still tense, with rows of mounted police blocking the roads leading towards the Reichstag. I saw a man lying on the ground, his face bloodied, with a presumed friend of his leaning over him. "Here," I said, offering him my handkerchief to stop the bleeding. He thanked me again before turning to his friend. "Don't worry, Emil, we'll patch up in no time." A cheer erupted among the crowd. I could see that a man with a small set of spectacles adorning his face had stepped out of the embassy onto a shabby wooden platform that looked like it had been constructed minutes earlier. "That's him," Minna whispered. "Friends, comrades, people of Berlin, changes in the air. Emperor Wilhelm II might have sent his lackeys to subdue us, but deep down he's just a coward. We, the people, will finally put an end to this brutal war. It's time for a new Germany. Let us be inspired by our comrades to the east and overthrow the old order. Down with the Hohenzollerns, long live the Social Republic of Germany." The crowds cheered at his words, and I couldn't help but cheer with them because we want to get our revolutionary bit back up there because we no longer control 3 areas. Okay, it's going to be real tough to control anything. To be continued, thanks to playing the demo, you have completed 0 of 3 goals. We nearly had it. We nearly had one of the 3 goals for the time being, but trying to manage all those resources would have been tough, I think. So that there is the demo for Red Echoes Berlin, and yes, feels very reminiscent of Suzerain. And generally, I quite enjoy it. I would like to see more. It's an interesting piece of or period of history for me. It's not one I know particularly well. Kind of the end of the First World War leading into the revolution in Germany, presumably deposing Kaiser Wilhelm II, eventually leading the way to the rise of the Nazi Party in preparation for the Second World War. But my interwar knowledge and history knowledge is very limited about Germany. But this might prompt me to go look at that. If you wish to try the demo for yourself, you can find a link down the description. And yes, we may well see this come back as a full game, because I like these kind of games. They do well on the channel. These narrative kind of games, Suzerain's done very well, as has the life and suffering of Sobrante and Prince Tyrion. So yes, we may well see this back on the channel in the future. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.